Fire Island. The name conjures up different images to different people. To the boaters and the day trippers, it may mean a day of sun and fun at the beach. To the groupers who share rented houses with friends and strangers alike, it could represent an endless summer of partying. To the families who own or rent, it's a summer getaway, totally different from their winter existence in suburbia or the city. And to the year-rounder, it's a combination of chaos and seclusion, depending on the season. The one thing all of these people have in common is their love for Fire Island.
Who doesn't like coming to Fire Island? Everything about Fire Island is the best.
It's a special place. It's like a little piece of heaven, you know. It's one of those places when you come over here, you know, everything else in your life just kind of goes to the background.
I came out on a Sunday afternoon in August to see some friends. I loved it and I never left.
I would say it's paradise on a sandbar. When I bring people over there and they go, this is where you live? This is incredible, man. I want to live here.
This guy came here yesterday for the first time ever to Fire Island. He grew up on Long Island. And I just said, welcome to my heaven. Welcome to my heaven.
I think Fire Island is a unique gem in the world because of its 32 miles of beautiful, soft, sanded beach and bayfront. It's surrounded by the ocean on one side. I can go knock myself out in the waves on one side and paddle myself, you know, in the bay. And it has no roads, which makes it virtually unique in the country. There are no roads. So you can throw the kids out, and it's a big sandbox for the kids. And it's a great sandbox and a cocktail party box for the adults. And it's located about 45 miles from the greatest city in the world. It is a fantastic deal.
It's very close to Manhattan. I mean, the whole trip is what you could get here probably in 2 hours. It's 40-something miles from Manhattan. That makes it rather unique to be closest to one of the biggest city in the world and still be so remote. And that's what makes it different.
Fire Island is gorgeous, pristine, roadless, and accessible, tremendously accessible.
But while it is accessible, access by car is limited to both ends of the island only. Robert Moses Causeway on the west end and Smith Point's Bridge on the eastern end. These bridges will bring you to the 2 public parks with access to beautiful beaches, pavilions, a golf course, and many other amenities. But if you want to see the real Fire Island, you'll have to cross the bay by boat. 3 ferry companies run from Bayshore, Sayville, and Patchogue, all on the south shore of Long Island, and provide daily service from mid-March through October, and even most days throughout the winter months. Of course, getting to the boat may require numerous means of transportation. Many of the island's New York City visitors utilize trains and taxis to make the commute out of the city to the ferries.
You know, this is a hour ride or maybe an hour and a half on the train, and you can get here in paradise in that short time. Driving to the Hamptons is probably an awful pain in the neck on a weekend.
I have a home in the Hamptons in East Hampton, which is just beautiful, and I choose to just rent that out and come to Davis Park. There is just no comparison. There are no cars, there's no stress. You get on that ferry and you just leave all your stress behind.
Once you arrive, it's all leg power, either walking or on a bicycle. No SUVs here. If you have to transport groceries, flowers, or kids, it's the wagon, not the station wagon. That's right, the old-fashioned radio flyer, or numerous variations and styles which are distinct to each community.
I did notice that there's a certain status for every town with the different wagons. You'll find if you get to each town and you see their hanging wagons, you'll see a real similarity between all of them, sort of like driving a car, what you drive.
If you don't want to take the ferry to Fire Island, you can drive over the bridge to the Robert Moses Public Beach Field 5 and walk in. But you should prepare yourself because it's a long walk to the first community. If you did decide to walk, you would go past Fire Island's most famous building. The Fire Island Lighthouse was the first sign of their arrival in America for thousands of European immigrants at the turn of the last century. 168 feet tall, made of red brick painted with alternating black and white bands, and equipped with the latest Fresnel lens, the tower has served as a beacon for ships since 1858. After it was decommissioned in 1973, it fell into disrepair and almost was destroyed until a private citizens group started a Save the Fire Island Lighthouse movement, which resulted in its restoration, and eventually in 1984, the Fire Island Lighthouse was placed on the National Registrar of Historic Places. Today, the light is lit by two 1,000-watt bulbs, which rotate in a counterclockwise direction, giving the appearance of a flash every 7.5 seconds. The light is visible for approximately 21 to 24 miles. There are 18 separate communities, 2 state parks, and miles of national seashore that make up Fire Island. The towns are each separate and distinct, some abutting each other and others separated by miles of forest and sand. Although they are similar in topography, they're all different in their personalities. The lack of roads keep the towns isolated from one another, with most of the interaction limited to neighboring communities.
Kismet is at the end by the lighthouse. You can walk into Kismet and you can take a boat to Kismet. It is one of the most welcoming communities on the bay.
Kismet is an evolving community. It historically was a party place. Over the last 10 years, it's become extremely gentrified. Families have replaced groupers. Groupers have moved out. And people are now seeing sunrise from the morning as opposed to from the night.
When I first came to Kismet, a lot of the houses were rented as share homes. They had a lot of young people. There'd be like 12, 15, 20 people in one house, all having shares. Basically, they would take a share and get a bedroom. It would be a community house. Shh. That's Anthony.
Anthony, you gotta be quiet.
And it was a very big party town, what we call a party town. A lot of the singles would park in Field 5, walk about 1.5 miles to 2 miles, and come in for the day and then walk on, walk off. So that was an advantage to Kismet. Back in 1990, I started having what we call the party, the beach party, where I had a live 8-piece band up on the top deck here, and it ranged between 500 to 1,000 people. The whole beach would come down here, and it became a real wild event.
Paul's parties are for his parties, having the beachfront house like that, when you get a party going like that and having the band up on the top deck and having all these people on the beach that were once at one time facing the ocean and playing in the water are now turning around and facing his house. And then at this time we go down with boxes of chips and potato chips and start passing them out to everybody. They come up, they grab a little tap off the beer, and they're back out again on the beach. They're dancing on the beach.
That kind of putted out in the year 2000. I think it was our last one, or 2001.
2000.
2000.
Yeah.
And what you started to notice out in Kismet is that all the people that were the big partiers and all the singles started becoming married and having families.
What I really think happened out here is that all the shareholders met each other. The singles met, and then they just continued coming here as married couples, and then eventually had families, and the island just turned over that way.
Which I understand is secular, because when all these kids who grow up out here become teens and singles, they'll pick up the party scene and start having the parties back then.
Our future singles.
Although families have in fact infiltrated Kismet, don't believe for a second that the party scene has ended. Kismet still maintains a reputation of being a party town, much of which is centered around the longtime establishment the Kismet Inn.
The inn itself is like everyone's home. People can meet from all over Fire Island. Seems to meet when you go to Kismet Inn, you meet somebody that you know.
Kismet is not the first community on Fire Island to go through this transition from a traditionally singles community to a family town.
Fair Harbor has become much more of a family community since I was. It was, and then when I was really little, and then it became a big rental place.
When we first moved here, the community was all groupers. Lots of, young people renting together and made a lot of noise, very lot of noise. Well, then they started smoking pot, I guess, and they got pretty quiet. That was nice. And then they all grew up, got married, had kids, and now they've bought all these houses and it's all a kids community again. Kids and bikes and dogs and families. So it's changed from the time I came back here.
Fair Harbor was very laid back and extremely relaxed. You were able to arrive by your own boat, and it has a sheltered cove and more there. Come into a very welcoming town, and it was just a boardwalk kind of community for the bay and the beach. And it was very pretty because of Clam Pond on the sunsets.
Currently, the community with the largest reputation for being a place of groupers and share houses is Ocean Bay Park.
On the weekend, it's a crazy place. It's almost like a Wild on E channel with all the singing and dancing going on, but it's also very exciting.
The weekends usually start over here, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Friday's not the most exciting night. Saturday's when the really hustle bustle starts. A lot of the weekenders get here Friday night, usually stay at their share houses or something Friday night, and then Saturday's when they all come out. Go to the bars, come out on the dock, go to the beach. Sunday is the craziest day, actually, the reggae band that comes out here. We have a reggae band here, there's a reggae band at a schooner, so there's people bouncing around, seeing different reggae bands. King Wellington is the reggae band over here. Big Bamboo they play, they've been playing over it for years. The same exact set every week. But there's people dancing on the outside bar. You got the Rastafarians walking around in between sets. They come out on the dock, hang out for a little bit. They're in the bar. It's a good time. A lot of people come over just for Sundays. A lot of boaters come over just for Sunday afternoons. Sunday is definitely the big hit over here.
It's a very socialized community where all types of people come together in one place and have a good time together. It's very unusual to see someone 25, another person 40, and another person 65 standing side by side in a bar, all having a good time.
The center of the single scene at Ocean Bay Park is and always has been Flynn's since the 1930s.
Well, we've always been sort of the center of the community, and it's been the meeting place, the watering hole. Many people have met their future spouses here, and over time, happy hour has developed into a real happening. And on Saturdays, people come from all over Long Island as well as Fire Island to gather here, and starting around 4 or 5 in the afternoon and going into the wee hours of the morning, people dance, party, meet each other, formulate friendships, relationships, and also plans for the rest of the week.
Ocean Bay Park is changing quite a bit in the last 15 years. I've seen more so in the last 5 years. There are still group rentals, but there's a lot more people with small children coming over and a lot more younger couples coming in from Manhattan wanting to spend more time together, more quality time. And if you have anything in Fire Island, it's definitely quality time. It's very enjoyable.
While living at Fire Island is fun, its proximity to the ocean does have its price. Nor'easters and hurricanes plague the island, and a long history of devastation.
One of the major problems, of course, on Fire Island is the erosion of the beach.
I've watched the years and years go by where this island has just got longer and longer and longer and thinner and thinner and thinner, because you got the bay sides or north winds that are getting eaten up, banging this side of the island, and then you got the other side of the island that's getting wiped out by winds, hurricanes, storms, everything.
The biggest hit to Fire Island was the hurricane of 1938. With 120-mile-an-hour winds and 10 to 15-foot storm surges, over 300 houses were lost or damaged.
Well, our house was right up on the ocean. It was the closest to the ocean. We had huge dunes, but The dunes were washed away in '36, and we had to have the house pumped up, you know, the locust posts, and the fireplace was ripped out. So that was quite a storm. Nobody talks about that much. But that set us up at 38, because when that tidal wave came, there was nothing to buffer it, and it just washed right over the whole place. And our house virtually disappeared, except for a couple little cabinets, kitchen cabinets we found in the middle of the island. And that day we came over here, there were houses sitting out in the bay, and they say there were 80 houses before the hurricane, only 8 were left standing.
Beach erosion is not the only problem Fire Island faces. With boardwalks instead of roads and old wooden homes surrounded by lush vegetation, fires present a large danger.
There were a couple of years where there was a fire on West Island by spontaneous combustion, and when a very dry summer, people are terrified because if no one's there to put the fire out, you'll have a whole line of houses.
Volunteer fire departments protect the 20 communities on Fire Island. A combination of modern fire trucks and RTVs are necessary to negotiate the boardwalks, sand dunes, and cement paths that lead to the many houses. These brave people will use anything necessary to protect the island's homes.
We haven't had a structural fire here for 15 years.
And we never lost a life, and we never saved the foundation, but things are changing.
Nature's not the only obstacle Fire Islanders have to face. The Fire Island National Seashore, which closely monitors Fire Island's flora and fauna, keeps a close eye on the interaction of the island's residents and the abundant wildlife. Although residents are sensitive to the issues of conservation, there are times when the residents and the National Seashore disagree. One example is when they cordon off large tracts of beach to offer nesting areas to protected birds.
They cordon it all off for the plovers, these little birds. And Jack Gallatley just made t-shirts that say plovers taste just like chicken. A lot of people are unhappy about it because it's taking up half the beach where the plovers are going to nest. And nobody's ever seen a plover around here, but I guess they do. They nest someplace.
The Fire Island National Seashore was established to preserve the unspoiled and undeveloped beaches, dunes, and other natural features of the island. At Sailor's Haven, they have established a tourist center where you can learn about Fire Island's wildlife and natural habitat. This center is adjacent to one of the last remaining maritime forests on the eastern seaboard. Because it appears to be below sea level, it came to be called the Sunken Forest.
And I think the Sunken Forest is probably one of the natural wonders of the world. It's just really a great place.
Sunken Forest is the center of a lot of Fire Island's wildlife, but you can find nature anywhere on the island.
There were no deer when I was growing up in the 50s and the 40s. You might see one if you came out in October. But all of a sudden, about 20 years ago, you'd have a deer waiting for you at your back door. They're not frightened of you.
Deers? Deers, I had a deer an apple in my mouth, and I had a deer eat an apple right out of my mouth. Foxes, deer, rabbits running everywhere. It's incredible. Absolutely incredible. I love it.
Fire Island is separated from the mainland by a large body of water known as the Great South Bay. This is one of the premier boating areas on the eastern seaboard. Fire Island is one of the most popular destinations to New York boaters.
I live in Westchester, so it's about an hour and a half drive to my boat, which I keep over in West Sayville Boat Basin. Woo! Woo! Hi, Mark. I just found that I want to keep my boat out here because it's so many things you can do with a boat out in Long Island that I can't do in Westchester.
I grew up on the other side, on the west side of Robert Moses, where we had Gilgo, Cedar Beach, Oak Beach. I never knew there were communities east of the bridge. And so when I got out of college, all of a sudden I decided to take my boat across the bay, and the first place we discovered was Sailor's Haven.
Many boaters spend whole weekends at one of Fire Island's several towns or public facilities. Sailor's Haven, Atlantique, Watch Hill, and Davis Park all offer long-term docking. with facilities, barbecues, snack bars, and full access to the beach. For many New Yorkers, spending weekends on their boats at Fire Island has become a way of life.
It's one of those places when you come over here, you know, everything else in your life just kind of goes to the background, and just relaxation, just enjoying the people walking by and the breeze and the creaking of lines. It kind of takes your mind away from your job and any kind of stresses and pressure you have back home. My wife is one of those people that she can sit on the beach all day. I'm a little bit too hyper for that. I can't really sit down all that long, but I mean, I walk back and forth and say hello to people and meet friends and make new ones every day. And that's what I like about it.
While Sailors Haven and Watch Hill are run by the National Seashore, the marinas at Atlantique and Davis Park are owned by Islip and Brookhaven towns, respectively. As a result, both communities have a much more localized atmosphere, allowing Long Island residents the opportunity of a boating community full of their neighbors and friends.
Atlantique is different because we don't have as many. I mean, we have our town, the houses, the residents over here, there's maybe 50 houses, but it's mainly the marina, which is basically people from the mainland coming over on their boats and spending time over here, and it's different because of that. It's funny, we're different from Fair Harbor, which is to the west, or we're way different from Ocean Beach, which is to the east. We're just, you know, a cool little spot.
Here on Davis Park, this is a town of Brookhaven Marina, and it's probably the same people that come and take the same slips every weekend for as long as I've been coming, which is the past 13 years. And it's a middle-class community. It's people with kids, and when you talk to a lot of people who boat here, you'll hear that their parents boated here and their parents' parents boated here. So it's a real lifestyle that people, you know, from all over the town of Brookhaven come here, and they grow up here, and they raise their kids here, and then their kids come, and then their kids boat here too.
Although the town of Brookhaven offers a beautiful marina facility at Davis Park, there's also a thriving community made of approximately 250 homes.
The characteristics of this community is very family-oriented. Most of the houses here now are rented, and they're all still owned by family people and whatnot, but they all rent them out. And it's funny because, like, every year is different. Some years it'll just be a bunch of young people renting. Some years it'll be just families renting. But it's more geared toward the family. And the beauty of this is, for instance, this weekend I'm here by myself with my cousin and her husband, my dog. One phone call and that can all change. I make one phone call to home, and my friends will be over here in a heartbeat, and it'll turn into a party central.
There's one restaurant and one bar at Davis Park, and that's the Casino, one of the few establishments at Fire Island located right on the ocean.
Welcome back, everybody, to the casino. Hey!
Popular culture has tagged Fire Island as a gay community.
A lot of people think it's for gay people, like the people at my school. I'm from Maryland, and they all think it's for like homosexuals, but it's really not.
In actuality, only the Pines and Cherry Grove fit this reputation and actively embrace alternative lifestyles.
I'm at Fire Island for the past 47 years, and I started in Cherry Grove, and I moved to the Pines in 1970. And since 1995, I've been the second vice president of the community, in charge of the operation of the entire community. It's a unique community. That the factor is that it's 1 mile long and approximately 3 to 4 blocks wide, and everybody in the community practically knows each other. There's no competition or arguments whether you're gay or straight. Some of the people that are straights have stayed here for many, many years. So there's no conflict whatsoever. We just blend in together. We don't care straight or gay, black or white. It doesn't make that difference to us at all. My friends started to migrate from Cherry Grove to Fire Island Pines. We all came over here several times and partied and so forth and met a lot of people over here. But the migration came from around 1968 to 1970. And they decided that they were going to move and they were going to leave me behind. So the fact is I had to make a choice of selling the house over there and buying a house over here, which I did do. The lesbians started to move into Cherry Grove, and the men started to move to the Pine. There's always been a conflict of whether you like Cherry Grove better or Fire Island Pines, and I like both of them.
If you head west of the Fire Island Pines, you'll come to its neighbor, Cherry Grove. While the Grove was settled in the late 19th century and got its name from churchgoers who took day trips to the area to see its famous cherry trees, today it's a well-known resort for gays and lesbians. It was in the 1950s that this area gained its reputation in Manhattan among literary and theatrical crowds as a summer resort for bohemians, artists, and gays.
I think it was Ocean Beach was getting them out. And these two who came, first two that I remember, bought this house that had belonged to someone from Sayville. And he was one of the ones that came from Ocean Beach. And then there was somebody else. And then gradually different ones. And when they first came, anything that if they put on any kind of a performance here, they wouldn't put on their last names. They never put their name down. It was Joe or Bill or whatever. But it's gradually gotten more and more liberal, and now they're very happy to be here. And most of us are, welcome. They put a show on almost every year. Well, every year they put on a couple shows, and sometimes I'm in them.
There's always been a history of tension between Cherry Grove and its neighbor, the Fire Island Pines. This tension reached its high point in 1976 and resulted in one of the most famous annual events on Fire Island.
Hey, children! We have a lot of children in the Grove! Hide them from these people! We're laughing at you, too.
This is the most exciting event of the summer, I think. It's when the Grove invades the Pines. Apparently, I don't know, maybe 30 some odd years ago, some drag queens on the 4th of July here were bored, so they decided to go over into the Pines, which has a cross-dressing ban, a code. They broke the code, and the Pines would not serve them. So they came back here, and they got a whole bunch of drag queens, and each year there are more and more drag queens that sail into the Pines, but the attitude has changed significantly. This year there's probably 350 drag queens in outrageous costumes who will get on this ferry, specially hired, and sail into the Pines where 2,000 people will be waiting and tooting their horns. So the yachts will be there, and then they get a free rose and a drink, and then they sail back and parade again. It's an incredible visual experience, and the spirit is fabulous.
I hate to tell you this, but being gay is not fashionable anymore. You can all go home. Community called Point of Woods. They have the best beaches in the world. Please go there.
From the outside, Point of Woods is very uninviting.
Point of Woods is the one community that has the fence around it, and they've been known to exclude other people.
With a fence surrounding the property and its reputation for exclusivity to other communities on Fire Island, Point of Woods is ridiculed as being snobbish and aloof.
Well, I would say it's exclusive. It is literally, it operates like a club.
Being a member of Point of Woods, really, it's a member of the club is the important thing. I mean, as soon as you rent, you're welcome there. And this is how new people come. Friends bring friends, and that's the way they want it. You rarely see complete outsider come in, because they'd go to the real estate office and she would say to them, well, who do you know that is here? It's like a country club.
Neighboring communities on Fire Island resent the gate surrounding Point of Woods, which prevents them from traveling freely from one end of Fire Island to the other. But with its vicinity to Ocean Bay Park, many residents feel the gate is a necessity.
I happen to be in favor of the gate. I don't think it needs to be locked during daytimes, but Saturday night, I'm telling you, Flynn's can be a zoo. Flynn's is a very good restaurant, and I know the Flynn's, and they've been there for years, and it's a fine place. But on Saturday night, or Friday night, or Sunday night, you get everybody in as, that do cavort, and they drink too much, and they're noisy, and you don't want them stumbling through Point of Woods. So I'm in favor of the gate for those occasions. Otherwise, I think in the daytime it could be left open.
To the outsider, Point of Woods appears uninviting and unfriendly.
It's not that way. And in fact, I know some people who have lived at Point of Woods and got so they couldn't afford it, owned their house, but just really couldn't afford to keep going. And people have helped them out and that sort of stuff. It definitely has a strong community feel, very definitely.
Another community much further west has a similar reputation to Point of Woods. Salt Air, one of 2 incorporated villages on Fire Island, has the reputation of being exclusive and has become a summer getaway to many celebrities.
It gets perceived from the outside as being like elitist, which I think there is an element of that, but really it's about the fact that family and children take precedent. There's no group rentals allowed, and there's a lot of rules, some of which are silly, like no night bike riding, and where everyone looks at us, kind of laughs at us for having an irrational anti-barbecuing law. It really is a tightly knit family community.
There's a lot of sports. There's a lot of swimming meets and day camp. And in some ways, it's, especially for young families, it's like you go to camp with your children and you stay in the house and they go down to the field and to the beach for all their activities.
Salt Air is a great community for children. Its summer camp offers tennis, soccer, and other sports and activities for young people. But Fire Island in general is a great place to bring up a family. No matter what town you favor, the experience of being a child at Fire Island is like nothing you can experience anywhere else.
We loved coming here. It was so exciting in the beginning of the summer. After school, we'd get on the ferry, and we were here for the entire summer. We didn't go back and forth. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have telephones.
I think when you're a kid here, it's great because your parents let you go at like age 7. And you can go everywhere in the village as long as you stay where the lifeguards are and don't go in swimming without somebody watching you. And there are no cars, so they're not worried about you.
The kids enjoy unabridged freedom over here. They are extremely independent from a very early age. They fear nothing. There is nothing to fear, except a few rampant deer at night. But they're safe. They know every house. We know where every one of their friends lives. They know every house. When we can't find our son, we look for him at one of 3 houses or shooting pool at the bar. And he's only 12.
One of the things that's great for kids here is that there's always a way to make a little money, I said I'm not paying, I think at that time it was 25 cents a piece for an ice cream cone. You go get some money and buy your own cones. So, they would clam and sell clams, or they'd fish and clean the fish and sell the fish. And they used to meet the ferry with their wagons, and people would pay them 50 cents or so to take their stuff up to the house.
You'd have a wagon and you go to the ferry and wagon, sir. And people would give you pretty good money. At that time it was maybe $1, $2. Sometimes you got $5 if you had to go to Seaview.
Lemonade and shells, 50 cents.
And of course I collected and painted shells and sold those.
I sold shells as a child at the end of the boardwalk. My son did, and my grandkids will do the same thing.
Can I have 2 lemonades, please?
They learned how to work here. I must say my kids all know how to work.
So kids who grew up there leave, say at 15 or 16, to go off to Europe or go to a college program. And they always come back. They always come back. And houses get handed down.
Generation after generation return to Fire Island so their families can enjoy the same beaches and experiences they enjoyed as children.
I wanted my kids to be here too, so I came back, or I was here all the time, but not so much, say between the ages of 20 and 26, and then when I had children, I came back.
It's the best place to be a kid. Some woman I heard say, I want to reincarnate as a kid that grew up in Fire Island. It's like a fantasy land.
Although Fire Island's known as a summer resort, there's a small community of people who live on the island all year round. This is an unusual existence. Everyday methods of transportation are replaced by ferries and wagons in the summer and four-wheel drive vehicles along beach roads in the winter. A summer of crowded restaurants and lots of neighbors dissolves into isolation and inconvenience during the long winter months.
Well, usually right after Labor Day, everybody just leaves. You know, you get the whole place is like to yourself again. I mean, it's nice to have everybody come here for the, you know, for the high season. You know, have business and, you know, tourism, which is good because it, you know, brings a good economy to the island. But it's nice when everybody leaves because it gets all peaceful and tranquil and back to the way it is, you know.
It's beautiful because it's very, very isolated, very, very quiet, but yet there are some people. I have Blair across the street from me, and, you know, we kind of help each other out in the winter. It's just wonderful. It's just this very special place. And we both lived in the city before we moved out here. And it was a big change, but it's like, I absolutely love it.
Yeah, in the winter, it's like you live in Vermont somewhere on the top of a hill in the middle of nowhere.
I was born and raised on Fire Island. It's paradise with a lot of disadvantages. In the winter, it's a difficult time for my mother's still over there for the past 40 years now, and for her, this is probably going to be her last winter of staying over. Well, this is going to be the last winter. Last year with the snow and everything else, it's hard. My mother's pipes were frozen up for 4 days. She was stuck over there. You have to wait for the fire department to come through with the plows to be able to plow you out. I mean, all the vehicles are four-wheel drive, but when you got drifts that are blown across the roads over there that are 2 or 3 feet high, and they're 20 feet deep, you get your car into one of those and you're stuck there.
Well, the first tribulation we had was that we were not able to have a driving permit for 5 years. And when they opened up the driving permits, my husband was the last one to get it. He went to work in Babylon every day, and he'd commute in a 3-piece suit and an attaché case. And he'd hitchhike. Sometimes would come home on the back of a truck with lumber, you know, wood for a fireplace. He'd be sitting on the back of that. It's the only place they had, but any ride is better. Some days he walked the whole distance, almost 8 miles from Captree Boat Basin home.
Roads are not the only difficulty year-round residents face.
I think loneliness, if you don't have children, you can get lonely. We had our dog, so I walk the beach and I run, and the library is right across the street, so that helps.
It was quiet living over here, but you know, I have a bunch of friends who live up and down the beach, and we'd always get together and find something to do, or take golf carts and ride them around, or go out in the boats, go kneeboarding. Surfed a lot as a kid, still do.
Our kids go to school here,
Yeah,
which
they
is
have
unusual.
this little school in Ocean Beach, which is, you know, like everyone knows everybody. They're more like cousins and siblings than they are as classmates.
School, and the quality of education they get out here is amazing because they
Yeah, it's one-on-one. There's like
taxes that pay
Yeah.
for the school, and there's only, you know, what, 50 kids in the school?
Yeah, there's 50 kids in this. There's like 6 kids per grade. So you really get that one-on-one attention.
The little bus comes and picks them up and trundles through the dunes and takes you to school. When I've subbed, they pick me up right on the corner and take me there and bring me home.
And when you're going to school in Fire Island, if you miss the bus, the only way to get there is by walking down the beach, riding your bike, or take a snowmobile, or take the mini bike and get to school. My mother used to pick me up with the boat when we missed the bus. I'd meet her back down at the marina, and we'd take the boat and drive me down Ocean Beach, and half of the time I ended up going off the bow of the boat into the water and showing up in school with wet shoes on, walking in soaking wet. And they called me the class clown.
The year-round residents on Fire Island seem to enjoy the peacefulness of the winter months, but look forward to the changes the summer brings. A few communities, however, cherish the peace and quiet and try to maintain a more subdued atmosphere year-round. Two of these towns are located just west of busy Ocean Beach, the Fire Island Summer Club and Robin's Rest. Robin's Rest is a small community of only a few houses nestled in the dunes.
It's just really nice out here, and especially our community of Robin's Rest, which is, even in the summer, I mean, this is a Saturday, July 4th weekend, and it's still very quiet and nice.
And you can see we're pretty cut off from all the other communities because we have a bird sanctuary and National Seashore property on both sides of us. So it tends to keep a lot of people away from here, which we kind of like. It makes it even more quiet and private. And we think this is the best community to be in, of course.
Yeah.
There is a bit of a conflict between Robin's Rest residents and its one commercial establishment. Tequila Jack's has its own dock and hotel and a lively restaurant and bar that draw a crowd of regulars who come every weekend to enjoy its great location. One of its famous draws, the Sunset Toast. But even with Tequila Jack's on its water's edge, Robin's Rest gives the feeling of quiet and isolation that most communities only have in the winter months.
Because if you work your way into Ocean Beach, where all that, you'll see, like, you know, there's a lot of people hanging out in the bars in summertime, but it gets a little noisy and rowdy at night. So that's why it's nice here.
The village of Ocean Beach is the urban center of Fire Island. Although separated from many other towns by miles of beach, it is often the meeting place for people from all over the island.
I would say that it's more of the city. It's the pulse and the heartbeat of Fire Island as far as it's just got a beat.
The commercial area in Ocean Beach sets it apart from the other villages here on Fire Island.
Ocean Beach restaurants and bars provide a great social scene for young people. Young residents from every neighboring town take water taxis to and from Ocean Beach, and on weekend nights the ferries are packed with Long Islanders who come from the mainland to party. Ocean Beach definitely draws the largest crowds, but over the years it's not always been everyone's favorite place. Ocean Beach is an incorporated village with its own police station and government. As a result, it has some very strict rules.
Commercial interests wanted ferries all day, all night long into the hours of the wee morning, and there were bars, grills, and carousing. And the residents wanted peace and quiet, and there was often a conflict. And remember, even internationally, it became called the land of no. No this, no that, no eating on the walks. Kids used to get tickets, summonses for having ice cream on the walk.
We have so many more people, and it's so crowded that we have to restrict bicycle riding and carts and different things because there's just too many people. On a 4th of July weekend, you might have 15,000 people here in Ocean Beach.
It's more of the land of no.
While Ocean Beach still has a lot of rules and regulations, it has gotten much more relaxed in the past several years, making it a more welcoming community. But residents still prefer to see families frequenting the town's commercial areas than the large groups of singles that weekend evenings draw. Ocean Beach is the center of shopping and restaurants on Fire Island, but almost every town has at least its own market and often has a store or restaurant in addition. But you should be prepared. Prices on Fire Island can be extremely high.
The market is here. They serve you. They take very good care of you. It is a little more expensive than the mainland, but that's to be expected. They have to freight the stuff over and handle it, so it is a little more expensive. But the convenience of it is it can't be measured.
In Saltaire, we just have a market, and people complain about the prices, but I've been here for almost 40 years as a housewife, and if you get the wrong storekeeper, if they don't feel they're making money, then they will just put the stuff from last year out on the shelves, the cans. So there have been years in the past 50 where you couldn't buy anything at the store. So when someone has good food, even though they charge a lot of money because they have to pay freight and they're only open 3 months a year, we try to support it.
All the stores on Fire Island are much higher than the mainland. You think all the food has to be loaded on a boat, brought over, unloaded. You know, that's a lot of labor charges.
Every community has seen an increase in the number of families moving in, but Fire Island still holds the reputation of having a thriving party scene throughout the summer months. Every weekend, the bars and restaurants fill up with young and old alike, looking to enjoy Fire Island's incredibly unique atmosphere.
I love Fire Island because it's just so much fun.
Fire Island's great. The people, they have live bands at restaurants like Flynn's, where my friend works, and McGuire's has a great outdoor deck.
There's sometimes absolute mayhem. I mean, sometimes you can't make the stuff up that you see out here. People jumping off the dock, people jumping off boats, people doing all kinds of crazy things.
Parties are out of control. Yes, my friends here have been swinging from poles for years now. And it's nice. It's like a little getaway, you know?
There are a lot of reasons to spend a summer on Fire Island, but it's the 32 miles of beautiful white sand beaches that is the ultimate draw.
No beaches beat Fire Island beaches. Every other beach that I've been to is smaller and it's not as fun. The waves aren't as good.
You know, Fire Island historically has been rated as one of the 10 best beaches in the world. And I've been around on beaches. I mean, you go to Nice, which has got a tremendous reputation, you can't walk on that beach, it's all rock. And even a lot in Israel is you got to wear shoes to walk in the water. Of course, there are others in the Caribbean that are great, but Fire Island is a fantastic beach. And it faces slightly south. So the sun rises in the east, and it stays on the beach all day long. And then it goes behind and sets in the west. You go down to Miami, and the sun rises and goes behind the high rises. And if you want to stay in the sun, you go to the roof at the pool in the roof, or else you don't get any sun in a big hotel on the Miami beach. But Fire Island is unique that the sun rises at the end of the island, on the east end of the island, and goes all across and lands just behind. But it's a fantastic beach.
I've had the opportunity, fortunately, to go to many places around the world, and Fire Island probably has the most beautiful beaches in the world. I'd compare it to one of many, you know, beautiful sand, absolutely immaculate, and it's not very crowded at all. So it's a wonderful place.
Fire Island is quiet and secluded. It's noisy and it's crowded. It's straight, it's gay. It's for families and it's for singles. Everyone comes away with a different feeling. But one thing they all agree on is that Fire Island is a great summer destination with some of the best beaches in the world.
Just thank you for coming to my heaven. Welcome.
Right.
My hair's blowing a little.
Oh, please.
You're on the beach.
Wait, hold on. I'll get that. I'll get that. Hey, Spider-Man! He loves Spider-Man!
Fat guy! Great shake. Woo! The girl from Mambo does the jumbo, and when they party, oh, when they party, we go,